Hey, happy Sunday, everybody. Hope you've had a great weekend. Welcome into another episode here of After the Buzzers. I'm Chris Sawyer. Got my two cohorts here, as we call him, the Hall of Famer, Marvin Orange. What's up, Marv?
What's going on, Chris?
I'm gonna call you the Professor, Lee, my Mr. VP over here, Lee Jones. But no,
What's
we're
up,
glad
Chris?
to have everybody in watching us. We got a lot of good topics today. We were just talking before we went on the air. A lot of stuff going on. One of the things we do here on the show, we talk Memphis basketball. So we're going to kind of talk about the loss they had to Florida Atlantic. We're also going to talk about Nick Saban had some interesting comments that I can't wait to hear these two guys, especially Marv, on what they think about that. Russell Wilson got released. So does he have a landing spot? Where does his career go? And another thing we've talked about a lot on this show is Justin Fields. What's going to happen with the pick, but there's hasn't been a lot of interest in him. So we'll kind of discuss that a little bit more. And then a topic which we hope you guys comment about too is who's the NBA. You look at the players, the best under 26. Who are some of the players that you think are some of the best under 26? And before we get started, I want you to look at these two guys. We got some new merchandise on, not me, but they do. After the buzzers, and we'll be putting that out. Hopefully, you guys can buy it. We'll be doing some trivia to send some things to everybody. But let's get right into it. All right, guys, let's talk about Memphis real quick because it's been up and down. We've been talking about that a lot. Had a tough loss, 92-84 to Florida Atlantic. And I'm gonna start with you, Lee. You being the Memphis guy right now. What are your
Right.
thoughts on that, and how does that affect them? Trying to get into the tournament, and they have their conference tournament coming up. But how do you think that affects them?
Yeah, that was a tough loss yesterday, Chris. It was, they needed to get that victory. I know it was going to be a tough game. It's tough to play in a small gym, Marv, as they had 3,000, 3,500 seat gym for the Tigers to go down. They just didn't play a good first half. The game started out okay. It started out, but Quinterly again, Marv, there he goes again. Had terrible turnovers in the first half. Really didn't show up at all. The big center Golden just killed them. I mean, just killed them. They didn't rebound the ball, and they didn't defend the 3-point line. So and then they didn't shoot well. So just a lot of colossal mistakes yesterday for the Tigers. I think at this point, like last week, I said if they beat FAU, they could have made it to the championship game, but at this point, they have to win the tournament now. The AAC tournament to even get in the NCAA's. That's going to be tough. They're 11-7 in conference, right? And being 11-7, a team of Memphis caliber, you would have thought they'd had a better conference record. And the tournament committee is looking at that. Now there are a lot of teams like in the ACC and the Big Ten with 11-7 records are going to get in. I just don't think Memphis would get in unless they win that conference title. So yeah, that's why I think the Tigers fall right now. It's not inconceivable though that the Tigers win the ACC tournament. They're that talented. Winners of 4 of their last 5. But yeah, this was a tough loss for Marvin and your boy Quinterly. I don't know, man. We probably. I think I might return him because I mean, for all the good he did early down the stretch. Now he had some last 4 games only had 2 turnovers per game, but he resorted back to his old ways. So, bro, what do you think about it? And please, let's start it off with this. It wasn't Coach Hardaway's fault. But go ahead, Mark. Tell us what you think about it.
First and foremost, let me give some props to Tomlin. He might be my favorite player in college
Yeah,
basketball right now, and
yeah,
and it's not statistically what he does. It's the energy. It's the small things. It's second shot opportunities. It's off the bounce. Like he played his butt off, and I really love the energy that he brought. And David Jones. I mean, he did his thing. He struggled. He didn't shoot it as well as we've seen him in the past, but
yeah.
but those two showed up. But Lee, I think you hit it on the head. Quinterly, in a small environment like that, it becomes really, really imperative that your point guard kind of controls the pace and handles the game. And not even from a statistical standpoint, not from a scoring standpoint, but like you said, he struggled in the first half offensively. I don't think he scored in the first half. If he did, maybe just 2. He had 4 turnovers that were really costly in the first half. So he didn't do his best when it came to the first half. So it killed him, coming down the stretch. Remember, they were down 36-35 it closing out the first half. The kid from FAU hit 2 3-pointers, the Greenlee kid, right? To go up 36-35. Then they come out in the second half to start the second half. We always say in basketball, the first 5 minutes are the most important. And they come out the first possession of the second half and hit a three. In those small environments when you can't hear, you can be standing in front of somebody and you can't hear them because it's just that loud. They needed somebody to kind of settle them. Now, I'm gonna say one thing, Lee. I get it. I know y'all love Penny, and I don't hate Penny, but there are some things that I see in basketball games that maybe some people don't see, right? So there was a stretch when FAU went on a 17-7 run, and he took out Jordan, and he put in the backup center for about a 9-minute stretch, or maybe it was about a 7-minute stretch. And within that stretch, they went on that 17-7 run. You left the kid in the game too long. Jordan might not be a stat stuffer, but he's good defensively. He gives you a lot of energy plays, and he left him in too long. And as soon as he came back in the game, they stifled the run because his presence does matter, right? So those are things that you look at in games where you left him out on the floor a little bit too long, and FAU got a little bit of momentum going, and that kind of hurt them. You knew FAU wasn't going to shoot 7 of 28 from the three-point line like they did the first game. That's just not going to happen. You don't do that at home. They made 11 threes, right? And the thing that I always say about Penny is that you love playing for him. His offense is great because it's free-flowing, just like NATO to Alabama. I'm just going to bring up Alabama because that's the way they play. But sometimes you got to get easy shots, especially when you're in a hostile environment, and you got to be able to have sets that you can get your scorers the ball in advantageous situations. And he did not do that with David Jones. They still played the free flowing, and if they missed, then FAU was off to the races. They got a couple alley-oop dunks going the other way. The crowd got wild. Quinterly wasn't playing well, so that all factors into it. So, but you knew that they weren't going to shoot as poorly, and they didn't. 11 3-pointers is big. Golden, like you said, they didn't have an answer for him. Kid did whatever he wanted to do, and that's fine. That's not what lost in the game. It was really the inability of Quinterly to kind of control the pace, which is what they needed to start this game, because they were fine at the beginning of the game, right?
Yeah,
they were kind of controlling the pace. They were doing well. Quinterly has some uncharacteristic turnovers, trying to do a little bit too much, and then they kind of went on that run. Then the beginning part of the second half, you kind of saw it start to fall apart. They made a comeback. Quinterly started hitting some shots, so that showed a testament of the resiliency that some of those players that he has. But again, I just wanted to see Penny put his players, that Tomlin and Jones, slow the game down, put them in some sets to make some buckets, create some fouls, create some opportunities that just wasn't free flowing with. And he didn't do it. So, you get what you get. I don't think it was a debacle by any stretch of the imagination. I think Memphis played well because that's a hard place to play. But again, you needed that game. That they got to win 4 games in 4 days, and that's a tough task.
Yeah,
they're capable of doing it. Go ahead, Chris.
No, and go ahead, Lee, because there's something I want to ask you guys about on this game. But go ahead, Lee. And first, I want to thank everybody commenting.
They're capable of doing it. What's up, Sammy Campbell, man? Good to hear from you. Gerald Britt, man. Thank you for tuning in, bro. We appreciate you. They can win, but I think the biggest person that they missed, Marv, to all the comments that you made, was Malcolm Dandridge. Dandridge is a big body, a physical player. He could bang down there, and Dandridge being out really, really hurts them against Golden. And then the other thing, Marv, to your point, they're a perimeter-based team, right? They don't have a low post presence, to say anything. Jordan is not. He plays on the perimeter, and not that well, if I might add, at this point in this game. But they're a perimeter-dominated team, which that makes for them to get tough baskets, especially when David Jones is not playing well. And so, I think they're just going to have to win 4 in 4 days, and I think they're capable. But we'll see how it goes, Chris.
Yeah, and here, guys. I mean, I say I'm the stat guy. It's what I do for a living. But they only shot 8 free throws the entire game. Like that. I mean, that's not. And they were out rebounded on the offensive defensive side. So I mean, Marv, I mean, you're a college basketball player. I mean, you've got to have more free throws than 8. I mean, because the game was only 92-84. That can help out. But that's something that stuck out to me, guys, was just the lack of free throws and then being out rebounded. They did lead in the 3-point. They were 50% from the 3-point line, but other than that, they were pretty much Florida Atlantic, controlled everything else.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good point.
Again, we're here on ISF Productions, but go ahead, Marv. Go ahead.
That's a real good point, Chris. And that's just kind of what I come back to before we kind of switch to the next segment, is that you got to find other ways to affect the game. They shoot the ball well. They've shot the ball pretty well all year, but sometimes you got to muck the game up a little bit. When you're not hitting shots, when shots aren't falling the way that they typically are, when Jones isn't allowed to kind of cook. FAU ran a lot of different people at him. They gave him different looks, which was, great on their part. They did something different than they did when they played him the first time. And I wanted to see them muck the game up because nobody can really guard David Jones. So, put him in some sets to isolate him on some guys, put him and Tomlin on the same side, make FAU get some different looks offensively is what I wanted to see. But, to their credit, they play the way they've been playing all year. So it's hard to kind of shift on the fly. But Chris, that's a good point. You got to muck the game up a little bit and change the pace.
Lee, you got anything before we go to the next?
No, we're good, man. We're good. Right. Let's go to this next one.
This is after the buzzers on ISF Productions, and again, thank you everybody for commenting. Make sure you're subscribing to us. We enjoy that. All right, so Nick Saban, guys, and I'm gonna start with Marv here first, Lee. Being the
I need you to go to Lee first. Go to Lee first on Nick Saban. Because I know he's saying crazy stuff.
Well, people want to hear the truth first. Yeah. People want to hear the truth first, and Marv want to get on here and apologize for everything. But let's talk about Saban, right? Okay. Yeah. Now look. He's 72 years old. He's won 5, 6, 7 national titles, whatever the case may be.
7.
So he has a right to go out on his own. He has a right to leave when he wants to, how he wants to. But let's examine some of the things that he said. He said, 70 to 80% of the players after the loss to Michigan came to him and they asked him about, playing time and, what their playing time is going to be because they're thinking about transferring. Asked them whether they're going to get paid, what are they going to get paid? And he took offense to that, Marv. He took offense to that. He was mad. He was upset. That's not the way we have done it. The way Alabama has done it is they've got Nick Saban paid. So, he's got the incremental increases in salary over the last 10, 15 years to now that he makes $12 million. So he wasn't worried about money. Money wasn't the object or getting paid when he was getting his salary increases. And it's a shame that now that you can't stackpile these players and these players want to play because they want to build their own brand, which is where we're at in the social media age. In the social media age, this is where we're at. They want to build their brand. So now it's too much for him, right? That's not the way they've done it. They've done it by, playing hard, academics, preparing them for their future NFL career. Well, what about the NIL, which is now they can do? He's not preparing them for that. That's the hypocrisy I hear in Nick Saban. So you retired, good riddance. Hey, you were a great coach, maybe the greatest. I'm just being real. Maybe the greatest college coach of all time, but and wins. But good riddance. If you can't handle today's player when you've made all of this money off of the backs of the players, Marv, hey, I say go on out to the pastor, retire, go to ESPN game day, do what you're going to do, but get out of the lives of these players and the new way of college football is in. And if you can't handle it, if the heat's too much, get out the kitchen.
It's a lot to unpack right there. So to say that Nick Saban can't handle it is kind of absurdly. So let's go back. Remember, the whole conversation is that the NIL was going to kill Alabama because Alabama couldn't compete in the NIL environment, right? So 2024 rolls around, a recruiting class. Where did Alabama end up? In the midst of the wild, wild west of the NIL, where did Alabama end up with recruiting class-wise? Second. Okay? Second. They had the second-ranked recruiting class in 2024. So that doesn't lend itself to somebody that can't handle the ever-changing landscape of college football, right? Another point here. We're going to talk about that he's getting paid off the backs of these kids. Well, absolutely. If we want to go into the economics of all of this, we can see, and all of my Tuscaloosa people out there can attribute to this, all the things that he's brought to the city of Tuscaloosa, the employment, the raise in students that go to the University of Alabama, like all of that affects the city, right? But there's another point that nobody loves to talk about, but kids went to Alabama because they knew they only had to have one good year to get drafted and go make money in the league. 123 NFL draft picks. 123. So if you stockpiling talent, what does that tell you? That tells you that he can develop talent. That's what that tells you. That tells you that the NFL comes here and guys that maybe play 1 year are getting drafted just because of the development of Nick Saban and the Alabama program. What do all NFL coaches say about Alabama's players when they come into the NFL? They're prepared and they're ready. 2.6 billion, and I said billion with a B. 2.6 billion in NFL contracts, right?
But so what? Who cares?
2.6 billion. So that tells me that the program in itself gets you to the level that ultimately all these kids are trying to get to. Okay, 500 grand ain't a lot of money, Lee. $1 million ain't a lot of money today, Lee. It's not. Okay,
but
44 first rounders. So a 72-year-old can't say that I don't relate to kids these days. I don't relate to where college football is going these days. And it's time for me to step aside. There's nothing wrong with honesty. You can't relate probably to Drake's music. You probably don't like it.
I love Drake's music, man.
But I'm a Roots guy. I love the Roots. I can understand why people love Drake. He sound like he be mumbling and making love on the microphone. But that don't mean he's not good. That don't mean he's not different, right? So just because he says that he can't relate to kids, and you know what, Lee? It's true. The majority of those kids coming in his office, sitting down, 70-80% of them asking for a bag. Most of them were going to leave anyway because kids today are different. Hold on, Lee. Before he even announced his retirement, the majority of kids that transfer before he even announced his retirement, because he told them the NIL is created for what you do on the field, not to come here and hold ransom over me and tell me that I'm supposed to give you some money because somebody said you was a 5-star. That's not how the NIL is supposed to work. And that's not how it works out. Now, if Texas wants to pay somebody, Isaiah Bond, $500,000 to come and he only had 30 receptions on the year, okay, do what you do. Go ahead and leave. But that doesn't mean I got to pay you.
Yeah, but Mark, you have to admit, Alabama for years stockpiled 5-star talent, correct?
Okay, and what did it lead to? It led to 123 draft choices.
Absolutely.
So what's the point? What's the point?
My point is this. At some point, you are stockpiling 5-star players. So, yeah, you're going to win. But at some point, those players are going to come to you. They're 5-star players and going to want to play. Because you know why? They see Shador Sanders driving a Maybach. They see Travis Hunter and Caleb Williams with nice condos on the beach. So
they see them getting their ass busted every Saturday. They see them getting their ass busted every Saturday, and that's what they see. Kids today want to win. Winning trumps everything. I don't care what nobody say about the NIL, and they can get money here and they get money there. If you don't perform, you're not going to the next level. So I hope you enjoy your $500,000. I hope you enjoy your $1 million. I hope you enjoy it. But that doesn't guarantee you the next level, which all these kids are working for.
You want to play. What's up, Lincoria? Thank you for tuning in, babe. I love you. Hey, you want to win, though, Marv. That's the whole premise of this. A 5-star player has been sitting on the bench in this new NIL social media era where other young players in college football are getting paid. They're going to want to get paid, Marv.
He started 4 freshmen last year. He started 4 true freshmen last year. Who was a 5-star center? This is what I like to know. Because everybody gets this conjecture out here that all these talented kids are sitting on. If you're good enough in college football, you play. And if you're not good enough schematically, athletically, physically, you're not ready to play. So those who play college football will tell you that.
This is what I love about you, Mark.
They'll tell you that.
You're going to apologize from Alabama.
It's not an apology. It's true.
The man got how much money did Nick Saban make off these kids? Every 2 years he got a raise, Mark.
So now it's his fault. It's his fault that we're in a Now it's his fault that we're in a capitalistic. Capitalism is great when everybody making money, right?
Well, that's what
it's his value, right? Isn't that his value? He created that value. Didn't he create that value for himself? That's what the market said. That's what the market said. So if somebody wanted to pay you $12 million, you're gonna say, nah. I'm not going to take it because I'm taking this money from these kids and I'm making this money. No, you created that market and that value for yourself.
Mark, the very thing you just said, I'm gonna throw that right back at you. Yes, the market dictates now that a 5-star offensive lineman makes $500,000. The same way the market dictated Saban getting paid. We're saying the same thing. What I'm saying is when capitalism flows like milk and honey down to the players, it's a problem. When Nick Saban was making all this money and getting raises, problem. So I don't begrudge him for leaving. Hey, if the
you're convoluting the two,
is over,
you're convoluting the two. I don't think Nick Saban ever said that he had a problem with kids making money. I don't think he ever said that they had a problem making money. As a matter of fact, in his quotes, he said, "I don't have a problem with it." He said, "I can't deal with the way that college football is today. I don't care that kids are getting paid. They should get paid." He's 72 years old, and he has the right to say what everybody else is thinking. That's a coach in college football these days. Why you see? So I don't understand why everybody's so upset with the fact that he said what everybody's thinking. You trash. Well, I'm not paying you $500,000. You gave up 16 sacks this year, and you coming in here sitting in front of me like I'm supposed to give you a bag. Get the hell on. Go to Texas. Go to somewhere else. I'm not dealing with that. And that's fine. And they still ended up number 2 in recruiting. They still paid Keon Sabb, the kid from Michigan. They paid him $2 million. So don't act like Alabama ain't in the NIL. Don't act like they're not giving people money.
We're not saying that. What we're saying is 2 years ago, and I know we have to move on, Chris. I love this. 2 years ago, Nick Saban, he said that he has to continually go back to their boosters to get more money to compete.
He never said that. That's never been said. He made a comment.
Oh my God!
When did he say that he needs to go back to his boosters?
Money. The boosters.
People are so funny that they act like Alabama is just a Tuscaloosa brand. Like the only money for the University of Alabama is within Tuscaloosa. It is a worldwide brand. And if anybody out here thinks that Alabama doesn't have the money to compete with everybody else except for Texas with oil money, if you think that that's true, then you don't know much about college football.
I don't think
because you don't end up with the number 2.
What I'm saying is, Marv, that the bar has been raised by these other universities around the country where they now can compete on an NIL basis, dollar and cents, and surpassing what Alabama can offer to monopolize the college.
So let me ask you this, Lee. One question before we move on. Let me ask you this. Who was number 1 and 2 in recruiting this year? Who got the top class?
Probably Georgia and Alabama.
So when you say Georgia and Alabama, because your comment was that everybody else has raised the level when it comes to NIL. Yeah. Everybody else is paying kids. But yet the 2 schools that you wouldn't think were the best or had the most money to give still finished 1 and 2 in recruiting. Why is that?
Last point. Why is it, Marv? It's not about them finishing 1 and 2 this year. It's about the erosion of the depth of what Alabama has been used to getting and stockpiling every position.
You can only play 11 players at a time.
That's the issue, and that's what's happening when they recruit these kids. A year later, they're coming in and saying, "I need more playing time, or else I'm leaving." That's
$2.6 billion in NFL contracts tells me different. No other school can compete and come close.
Yeah.
Right, well, hey guys,
and ultimately that's the goal.
We're getting a lot of comments on this, and I knew that's why I said I can't wait to hear what Marv has to say. But we'll move on here. But no, thank you everybody for commenting here on After the Buzzers. All right, guys, let's move on to NFL. Russell Wilson was released by the Broncos, and actually the Broncos are going to take a big hit. I think it was got an $85 million dead money hit. But talk about. Does he have somewhere to go? What do you guys think about the release? And I remember, looking at this topic, I remember watching his video when he was there. I thought this was going to be a great move for him. You know, he was good in Seattle. I thought going to Denver, but it just didn't work out. But I'm going to go to you, Marv, first. What do you think? What do you think about Russell Wilson being released?
I mean, he's a 35-year-old quarterback that's jobless. I don't know. I don't quite know what we're talking about here. I mean, he hasn't been good since 2014. Okay. So they've actually, to be quite honest with you, Chris, because I know you're the stats guy, they were actually better once he left Seattle under Geno Smith. What does that really?
You're right about that. Yep.
I mean, so let's not talk about emotions here and feelings about Russell Wilson. Let's talk about the player, Russell Wilson.
Okay, let's talk about the player.
Let's talk about, since 2014, he has not been good. Okay, he went to Denver. We can talk about all the stuff that we want to talk about, but there's one thing as an NFL quarterback, and I happen to know a few people that played in the NFL. There's one thing that you can't lose as a starting quarterback in the NFL, and that's the locker room. And that's what he lost in Denver.
Never lost a locker room, Marv. Come on, man.
I'm sorry, but if you showing up in Denver and you got two offices, right? You're giving two offices. You're giving parking spaces around the arena that around the stadium that nobody else is given. I know there's some Alabama boys on that team. I hope you know this. That said nobody rocked with Russell Wilson. Nobody, because he was treated completely differently when he came in there with really nothing to show for it.
Shame on you, Marv. Shame on you.
What?
Shame on you.
So I can't talk truth.
Every star quarterback in the NFL is treated differently. Every star quarterback in the NFL is treated differently. And because Russell Wilson is a Super Bowl winner and a two-time Super Bowl combatant.
He had been good since he's had an elite defense. He has not been good since he's had an elite defense behind him.
He deserves to be treated differently. And Marv, if I'm a player and my organization is going to allow me to have an office or parking or whatever they give me, I'm going to take it. He didn't come in and say, well, if you don't give me an office, if you don't give me an office, I'm not going to play Sunday. He didn't come in and say that.
But he could have not taken it. He could have said, "No, I don't need it." He could have said, "I'm just one of the dudes. I'm coming in here to win football games." That's what he could have done.
Does Aaron Rodgers say that?
Do you know? The one person that we know. The one person that we know that doesn't say that, that's on record, that doesn't say that, and that takes salary cuts is the greatest of all time, and that's Tom Brady. That's the one person we know that doesn't do it.
Brady's wife was making $40 million a year. He didn't have to worry about money at that time.
And Russell Wilson's he married to Sierra. She making some money.
Sierra ain't making. Marv, you see, this is the problem. This is what I hate. Lee Marv.
Thank you, Sammy Kim. They hated him. They hated him.
Cortland Sutton, he can't. Jerry Jeudy, all of those guys came to Russell.
Jerry Jeudy, a Bama boy, he hated him.
This is he didn't say it publicly. He didn't say that. So
I know he didn't say publicly that he liked them.
Has some envy for the starting quarterbacks because they are treated differently. This is ridiculous, Marv. Tell me. Okay, let me say this. Russell Wilson threw 6 touchdowns, had 8 interceptions last year, threw for over 3,000 yards, completed 66% of his passes. Trevor Lawrence, I like to just look around and have some comps. This is Trevor Lawrence's stats last year: 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 4,000 yards, and 65% completion rate. You got Aiden O'Donnell, you got Taylor Heineke, you got Desmond Ritter, you got Mac Jones. These are starting quarterbacks in the NFL this year. You got Bailey Zappi. You got all of these guys that have started games. This is absolute trash. And so you're going to tell me that Russell Wilson cannot and should not be a starting quarterback?
Hey, I'm gonna go back to what Chris said when we started this. The proof is in the pudding. It says a lot. It says a lot that an organization will be willing to take an $85 million dead space cap hit to get your ass out. That says all. That says all I need to know. So your stats, they're cute, but that tells me all I need to know about the fact that they wanted him up out of there. That tells me all I need to know.
They wanted. Sean Payton didn't want Russell Wilson from Jump Street. He said it in the offseason, literally, when he was saying, Russell has to quit kissing babies.
Because he's not good anymore.
Who talks about their starting quarterback before they ever even got on the field? Who does that to a starting quarterback and a future Hall of Famer? That's ridiculous, Mark. He didn't want him from the jump. That's okay. And he treated him like that. So no matter what Russell Wilson did, he had a very good season. Sean Payton didn't want him, and this is the end result.
So what Denver did was pay $124 million for 11 wins. That's what they did.
If you can get it, nothing wrong.
That's what they did. That's not the point. The point is the point is that that Brock Purdy just took San Francisco to the Super Bowl, and they're paying less for his 4 years in San Francisco than Denver paid for half a season for Russell Wilson to get you. Russell Wilson to get you 11 wins.
Let me say this: Pittsburgh, Atlanta
don't want him. Atlanta signing Kirk Cousins. Don't want him.
Kirk Cousins is going to stay in Minnesota, Marv. Kirk
Cousins going to Atlanta. Omar Khan don't want Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh because he drafted Kenny Pickett, and they want Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh to be the quarterback.
Russell Wilson is a Virginia boy. Mike Tomlin is a Virginia boy. Russell Wilson will sign. As he's been reported, he's already met with the Steelers. He's going to sign with the Steelers, and that'll be a certain upgrade. Let me say this. The Steelers started 3 quarterbacks last year: Mason Rudolph, Trubisky, and Kenny Pickett. They had a combined 13 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Give me a break. Omar Khan, you're going to get fired for drafting Cody Pickett if you don't change this around. Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh, that's the deal. But not only Pittsburgh, the Raiders are going to have interest. Atlanta should have
Luke Ketzey's in Los Angeles, in Las Vegas. Luke Ketzey, he's not taking him in Las Vegas. He was with Nathaniel Hackett in Denver. Yeah, that's the offensive coordinator for the Raiders. He can't stand Russell Wilson. He can't stand him. He will not be a Las Vegas Raider.
Look, the offensive coordinator, he don't have a say-so. This is higher than that offensive coordinator. And look, if you're going to tell me the Raiders are going to play with Aiden O'Donnell next year as their starting quarterback, you're crazy, Marv. Now,
the best plays.
The quarterback. They are going to draft the quarterback. But let me say this. There's not one quarterback outside of Caleb Williams, in my humble opinion, that's ready to step in the NFL and start day one.
All right,
not Jaden Daniels, because his game is not going to translate that quickly to the NFL game. Caleb Williams.
Thank you, Sammy. Thank you, Sammy. He robbed the bank.
Bring up Caleb because we know he loves Caleb Williams. But no, Lee, I want to say this. I agree with you on Wilson. I think with Tomlin, I'm here in the 757. We've lived here before together. I think that's a good fit. But also Atlanta. I know Mars said Kirk Cousins. Like, I love Taylor Heineke. I grew up watching ODU. Desmond Ritter's a fellow alumni of mine at Cincinnati. But I think that would be a good spot for him. But, hey, we're going to move real quick. And I want to thank everybody for commenting on this stuff. But we're going to stay in the NFL. And now we're going to talk a little bit, we got Wilson. We got Fields. Why is there no interest in Justin Fields? Like, what do you think? We've talked about this a lot of times, but people aren't saying he's a franchise quarterback. So I'm going to start with you, Lee. What are you seeing and what are you thinking about that, especially as we get into the draft here next month?
Yeah, I touched on it last week, Chris, and I'll say it again. Look, when you're out just literally telling everybody that you are going to trade Justin Fields and you're broadcasting all of this, why would I give you a second rounder? Why would I give you a third rounder? I know that you have going to trade Justin Fields. So I'm not going to give you anything. I'm going to get him on the down low. I'm going to get him on the cheap. That's why I said last week, and I'll say it again, Chicago needs to hold on to Justin Fields till later on in the spring and early summer, and then start to field offers. Let the draft play itself out. See who gets what in the draft. Let free agency play itself out. There is no need right now to be in a rush to trade Justin Fields. Marv, you talked about competition and all that. Have some competition. That's okay. But to just give Justin Fields away, that's a foolish move by the Chicago Bears, and they should not do that. So the lack of interest because everybody knows they need to move him. And the notion that Justin Fields cannot be a franchise quarterback for you, that's ridiculous. He's shown enough both in Chicago as how he's progressed these last couple of years to say that given the right weapons, you saw how he jumped this year from last year, given the right weapons, he can lead a franchise and he can lead them well. So Atlanta, that's the place for Justin Fields. He needs to go to Atlanta. Fresh start, being at home. They have good weapons. What he would bring to their offense would be tremendous with the way he throws the ball, with the way he runs. They have 2 good running backs. They have a tight end. Go to the Falcons, start a new era, and show everybody what you can do, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, the market is what it is, right? It's I mean, I
This
think
guy,
that
man.
I, I mean, is it not? Am I saying something that's? I mean, the market is what it is. There's no GM that's breaking their neck right now to make a deal for Justin Fields. You got free agency, you got the draft. I mean, what are they breaking their neck for? I mean, like Lee said, I will agree with him. Chicago has played; they played their hand, and I probably wouldn't have done that, but the market is what it is. I have been on record, and I'm going to continue to be on record that I think that Chicago shouldn't draft Caleb Williams. I know Lee feels differently. He thinks that he's a generational quarterback, but statistics. I know y'all both numbers guys. I mean, stats don't lie about number one overall picks. They just don't. And I'll use the guy that's in Carolina that Lee hates, the little short guy that came from Alabama, Bryce Young. I mean, it doesn't bode well. So, and since we're gonna bring up Carolina real quick, I think that might be a great place for Russell Wilson. I think
No, absolutely
go a 35-year-old that hasn't been in the NFC Championship since 2013. He hasn't won nothing since 2014. So why not let him? Why not let him go tutelage another little short in stature quarterback? Show him how to become a professional. Get him get him another year or two at the league vet minimum, and do that. But anyway, I just don't know. Where Chicago has made a lot of bad moves over the years too. I mean, we can go back. We can think of Jay Cutler. We can think of Mitchell Trubisky. We can think of getting rid of Roquan Smith he was I think their 8th overall pick, and they gave him up for basically nothing to go to Baltimore. Like they've made some really bad moves over the years. So I don't think standing pat is a bad thing for them right now. But I don't think that you'll see them go into training camp with Justin Fields on the roster if they're drafting Caleb Williams. I think even though we know Justin Fields is a professional, I think he would go into camp and compete for the job. I think he would do things all the right way. But there's a factor in here that none of us are talking about, and the fact is, and I know Lee doesn't think that this is very important because he said it when it came to the locker room with Russell Wilson. The Bears love Justin Fields. Everybody on that team loves Justin Fields. He has that locker room. He has the support of players. And, in a team sport, especially like football, it does matter. Like, it does matter when you got guys that ride with you. And it's guys in that locker room that ride with Justin Fields. So it's not as cut and dry as people think. If I'm the Bears, like I said, I stay I get out of that number one spot. I get picks. I get whatever I can get. And I rock with Justin Fields. Because I do think, like Lee said, I do think that he is a viable quarterback in this league. I think that he can be a good quarterback in this league, and I think he can win games. I think he's multidimensional. There's a lot of things that he does well. So I don't think you give up on that for a quarterback that, in my eyes, that I don't think he's generational like some of the other people think. So that's just where I come out. But the market is what it is.
Can I say something real quick? Marv, you made a point. That's what we had talked about. I don't know if you guys can hear me. That's what we talked about last one of our last shows. That is one thing. You made a great point about Fields in the locker room versus what you said about Wilson not having the locker room. So that is a big thing. And I see Sammy's been commenting on here. If Wilson goes to Atlanta, Fields goes to Atlanta, they're winning the Super Bowl. So thank you for the comments. But Lee, you got anything to?
A lot of talent in Atlanta. A lot of talent in Atlanta. And Fields would enhance that. He would complement it very, very well. He would energize the fan base in Atlanta like nothing else. No other. Kirk Cousins. We know what Kirk Cousins is. Okay, he's going to have 4 or 5 games that wow you to death. He's going to have 3 or 4 games that he throws 4 interceptions, and you're not going anywhere with Kirk Cousins. That book.
So you mean Dak Prescott?
Got the Cliff Notes
Gotcha.
and everything. We know that. We know this is what Kirk Cousins is. What'd you say, Mark?
I said, so you describing Dak Prescott. Got it. Okay. Good.
Oh, that's a jealousy comment right there. That's a jealousy comment.
It's not. You described.
No, we know what Kirk Cousins is. So Justin Fields goes to Atlanta. But I want to flip it back to one thing when you was talking about Caleb Williams and draft Caleb Williams and keep Justin Fields. Look, camaraderie in the locker room, we love that. We need to show leadership qualities. Sammy, you made a comment about Caleb Williams crying to his mama and painting his fingernails. Who gives a crap about that? Bottom line is the guy is a generational talent, and he's going to show it. All of you guys are going to eat your words. And talking about the little short guy in Carolina, Marv, he shouldn't have been number one anyway. So that's the problem right there with Carolina and their ownership. But hey, Justin Fields, chill out with it. Slow play it, Chicago. Let the trade come to you. Don't throw it out there so that everybody knows you want to unload this guy, and play it through the draft if you have to, through free agency, and then see how the value of Justin Fields goes up.
I mean, do you really think that there's more than maybe 2 or 3 teams that? I mean, Baker Mayfield just signed for $100 million. I mean, do you really think that there's 3 or 4 spots that need Justin Fields? I mean, with the free agent quarterback market the way that we have it, and we know that there's some guys out there.
So who's going to play quarterback for the Steelers next year, Mark?
Kenny Pickett.
That's trash. We see what he can do. The guy.
Okay, well, I mean, he was a rookie. It might be trash, but that's going to be the quarterback.
Who's going to play quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders?
I mean, it won't be Russell Wilson. We know that.
Okay, but that's a landing spot for Fields. Who's going to play quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons?
Kirk Cousins.
Who's going to play quarterback for the Washington Redskins? That's 4 viable teams right there.
Sam Howell.
That Justin Fields can be traded to and go in and impact and make a positive difference on that franchise and lead them towards the ultimate goal, the Super Playoffs and the Super Bowl. That's 4 teams I just named.
But that all except one. There's only one that don't have a quarterback.
All of them don't have a quarterback.
They
got placeholders, but all of them don't have quarterbacks. None of those teams have a viable starting quarterback.
Marv, you think the Washington can run with Howell still? Like, to me, like being here locally, it's one of the things like people want him to get him, them to get rid of him. But that's I hadn't even thought about what Lee just said, but I know you said Howell would start, but I know that's one of the big things in the papers here. Is
Howell is terrible.
Not liking him, and they're honestly they're mad that they got rid of Heineke and went with Howell.
None of
that's
those
the second time
that
Rivera's done that.
Yeah, none of those
but
teams
it's
have
not about
starting quarterbacks though. None of them.
But it's also not about who we think is viable and who isn't. A trade has to make sense, and for what Chicago is asking for Justin Fields right now, for those other teams, it don't make sense. Like he's a 3rd round value right now, right? I mean, that's just what the market. That's what the market is suggesting. He's a 3rd round. He's a 3rd round value right now in a trade scenario.
Going into the season, though, that value increases, and that's what I'm saying. Right now, he may be a 3rd round quarterback on March the 11th, but June the 11th and July the 11th, that value is going to increase significantly. That's what I'm saying.
All right, well, if you see Sammy's comment, that was pretty funny. He said the Indians are going to be coming after you, Lee. You keep calling them the Redskins.
I got it. Yeah, my bad. I got it.
Look.
Yeah, that's my fault, Commander fans. That's my fault. Yeah. And see, that's the team that Sammy Campbell roots for. He's a closet Commander fan. He never mentions them, though, because they're terrible, but he's a closet fan. I just want to throw that out there for you, Sammy Campbell, as you make these comments.
Hey, I'm going to all right, let's move on to our last topic, guys. I know you guys are big NBA fans. Who are some of the best young players that are under 26? There's a lot of ratings out there, but I'm going to start with you, Marv. As you watch the NBA, who are some of the best players you see that are young and under 26?
I mean, you got your regulars. You got Anthony Edwards. You got Zion. If he can maintain and stay healthy, under the radar, he's actually been pretty good this year, to be quite honest. Of course, Luka. You can't have a list with young stars without having Luka on there. Ja. I think that I don't know if Tatum. I think Tatum might be right at that threshold right now. 26. So. There's a lot of guys that if I would have to pick right now to say who I think is the best right now from a statistical standpoint, I guess you got to go with Luka. But who do I think is going to end up being the best? is a different story. Who I think is going to end up having the most championships and who is going to have a greater effect on a franchise in all aspects of the game. It's a guy that a lot of people don't talk about, but the kid in Orlando, the Paulo Banchero. I know a lot of people don't talk about him, but listen, the kid is, he's 6'10", and he's got that gear that a lot of people don't talk about. He got that Kobe effect to him. I'm not saying he's Kobe. Nobody go jumping off their seat here, but there's something about the kid that I think that lends itself to a long career that's going to be really, really, really good. And I think that he affects people around him in a different kind of way. Like Orlando, they built a pretty decent roster. The Franz Wagner kid is pretty good. I don't think they'll be able to keep him over the long haul. I think the demand will be too strong for him to leave. But if I'm looking when all is said and done, he's going to be somebody that I'm looking at to end up having a better career than all of them. And I'm not meaning from a statistical standpoint, because I know we all get caught up in stats nowadays. Stats means everything. But, Luka put up a triple-double against really bad teams. Like, I get it. I understand that you love his talent. But are we talking about talent? Or are we talking about people who can lead franchises to win? Because I used to think that the NBA and it was all about winning and winning championships and transcending in
Who's
that
the
kind
best,
of.
who's the best player of the 26, Mar? Give me your top four, man. Give me 1 through 4 right now. 1 through 4, Mar.
I mean, Ann Edwards is number 1 for me. I'm gonna put probably Luka at number 2. I'm gonna put Ja at number 3, and I'm gonna put Zion probably at number 4.
Just gonna skip over Jason Tatum. Just gonna skip over Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You're gonna skip over all them guys, huh?
I mean, because are you? The question is kind of skewed for me, because if we just talking about from a pure talent standpoint, we're not talking about people who affect wins and leads teams. That's not what y'all asking. You asking me who is the best player in just terms of raw athleticism and basketball playing ability, not the way they affect basketball games, because that's all anybody wants to know now. Who can cross somebody up and who can give you 30, but they can lose by 20 and they give up 30 on the other end. So they plus minus. Lucas plus minus is terrible. But he's still mentioned all the time because he just makes it look so good, and everybody loves it. You get enamored by it. So if you're talking about from just a pure playing basketball standpoint, sure, that's my 4.
I got it. Luka, the best young player in basketball, Mark. I mean, we have to stop hating on Luka because he's European. I think a lot of that is what happens when you watch Luka Doncic play. From an assist perspective, from a rebounding perspective, he's shooting almost, what is Luka shooting? 30. He's averaging 34 points a game. He's shooting 49% from the field and 38% from the three-point line. He's dishing out 9 assists, and he's got 9 rebounds. Come on, Marv. That's ridiculous. He's the most talented young player in the game, and people need to stop hating on Luka. I mean, they're winning ball games.
I put him at number 2. I don't know if that's hate. I put him at number 2.
Number 2. Look,
that's not hate.
For me, number 1 is Luka. Number 2, clearly to me, is Ja Morant. Ja Morant could be the face of the league if not for all of the off-court things, and he has the opportunity because he has everything that we look for in a ultimate star in the NBA. Personality, he's explosive, he's got that little controversy to him, and he plays above the rim, and that's what Anthony Edwards does too. But that's all what we love. So we number 2 is that. Number 3, I would say Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and then number 4 would be Anthony Edwards. I think Anthony Edwards is ascending, but that'll be my 4 right there.
Can I ask real quick? Because Marv had said Zion as number 4. I wouldn't have him in my 4, but before we go, talk about that a little bit, Marv, with Zion. I mean, to me, he's not I don't think he's gone to where we thought he would go as we watched him at Duke. But I'm really interested in your perspective on Zion being number 4.
I mean, he's had a lot to do with that, with the fact he hasn't been in shape and he's been hurt. But if you get him on the floor and you can keep him on the floor, he's a force of nature. I mean, you can't really guard him, just because of just how athletically gifted he is. We haven't really seen that a lot in this league on that level, right? But all the guys that you mentioned, here's the issue that I have with their games. Like, it doesn't translate well when they get to 30. Ja Morant's game doesn't translate well as he gets older. It just doesn't. He's not a good jump shooter. He's not your prototypical point guard that really runs a team. Like Lee said, he's box office. He's above the rim. And I love Ja. He's South Carolina boy. There's no hate in what I'm saying. But I look at these guys who can transit, whose game will transit as they get older, right? Can transition. The only one that you really have for me is Luka that will transit because his game is not built on athleticism. His game is built on, the nuances of the game. That's why I said Banchero is one of those kind of guys. Jason Tatum is one of those kind of guys. Like
SGA.
Shane Gill, those are the kind of guys that I think that will translate, their games translate the older they get. Why do you think LeBron's so successful? Not only is he a freak of nature, but his game has changed, over the years. And a lot of people, it's hard for people to do that when they're one way for so long, and then your game has to start to transition, right? And you see a lot of stars who are above the rim, who are great athletically, start to struggle as they get a little bit older. And I know that's not really the where we were going with this, but that's kind of how I see it. Yeah, under 26 right now, sure. I mean, I get it. Yeah, Luka, you watch him, but it doesn't translate to me to championships. It doesn't translate to me to transcending franchises. It doesn't, like Kobe did, like Mike did, like LeBron has done, even though he's failed in a lot of instances. When we're talking about players like that, I don't think any of them hit that threshold for me at this point.
Yeah. Ray Blackwell tripping as usual, talking about Luka. The jealousy of Luka is just puzzling me. Luka's game, Marv, to your point, it'll never change. It's a slow game. He shoots the three well. He's huge. He can post up. So Luka's never going to change. Ja's game, Ja has to develop some other dimensions in his game, but right now, under 26, there's no doubt that he's number 2 and could be number 1 if he gets his off the field together. Because he might lose it when he get into his mid-30s, but he ain't losing it anytime soon, barring injury, of course, that explosiveness that he has. Look, and let me say this. I will give Mr. Blackwell a point. Wemby is coming. There's no doubt about that as he continues to get better. I personally still want to see Wemby play a little bit more with his back to the basket because I think he would be a force down there as well. No one's going to block a turnaround fadeaway from Wemby. But right now, it's Luka. And I just think people don't give Luka enough credit for the skilled player that he is. Luka's a bad boy.
He's flat-footed.
Yeah, he's a microcosm of what we value in the NBA today, and that's fine. I mean, I get it. The game has changed. It's what we value now. His game is what we look for in terms of box office and putting people in seats and scoring 35 a game. But then when you look at the box score, he's given up 40. On people that he's defended. He's good. But see, I get it. That goes over a lot of people's head because people don't like to admit that. He's terrible defensively.
6 triple-doubles in a row, Mar. 6 triple-doubles in a row. He's stuffing the stats like no other. That's never been done before.
What does it translate to?
Downplay his skill.
What does it translate to, though?
It translates to a 38-26 record right now.
Okay.
And they're only 2 games out of the 5th spot.
I know you like this because they're your NBA pick to be the NBA champions, which is
my sleeper pick.
Blasphemy, like Lee. Look, he's so in love with Luka, like he just got shades on. I don't know what that is, but
I just call it like I said. People do not give Luka enough credit. It's ridiculous how when we talk about Luka and we just downplay how skilled of a basketball player he is. How skilled
I don't think anybody
downplays
that.
Yeah. Did we downplay?
I don't think anybody. Yeah, I don't think anybody downplays how skillful he is. We
quickly go to, but he doesn't play any defense. Well, tell me one guard that does play defense, Marv. Tell me a 2-way guard right now that's a great
Jason Tatum is pretty good. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's pretty decent. I mean, you can go look at the plus minus. I don't have to. I'm not going to debate this. Go look at the plus minus. You can go look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's much better defensively than anybody we're talking about. Anthony Edwards is way better defensively than any of these guards we talking about.
I like Anthony Edwards defensively. I like Anthony Edwards defensively. I do like him, but running to say that he's not a good defensive player, and then just overlooking what he's historically doing on the offensive side of the ball. It's ridiculous, Marv. And you
No,
know
I
better
mean, but
than that.
Lee,
You know
Lee,
better than that. You
listen.
know better than that.
When you start talking about greats of the game, they affect the game more than offensively, and that's the only way he affects the game right now. It's the only way. Did Kobe affect the game a different way? Because everybody's put him in that stratosphere, and from a skill standpoint, like Kobe affected the game in so many different facets of the game. Mike did, LeBron did, because these are the people they talking about from a skill. Even remember that run that Golden State had with Kevin Durant? He was the best player defensively for Golden State in those series. Even when he went to Brooklyn, when Kyrie got hurt, yo boy, and he basically almost beat Milwaukee on his own. He was dominant on both ends of the floor. Do you ever think that you would see Luka Doncic, whatever his last name is, be able to control a basketball game on both ends of the floor the way that you see these guys that we talk about as the upper echelon? That's all I'm saying. So I can't never put him there.
We're comparing him to the other greats under 26 right now, and clearly none of the greats under 26 plays any defense except for, I'll give Anthony Edwards. He's a good defensive player. So no, he doesn't. He doesn't compare to those guys. He compares to Steph Curry because Steph Curry don't play any defense. But LeBron's all on the ball defense. It's lacking right now. So yeah,
well, he's 39 years old, Lee. Like, I mean, come on.
I love defense is defense. If he's on the court, he should be playing defense. That's to your premise. I'm on the court. Luka's on the court.
He's better than Luka at 39.
They're about the same to me, really. I mean, they're about the same. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean,
you got two of the most non-defending guards on your roster, and you act like they good enough to win an NBA championship because you think they can outscore everybody. That's right. I know they can outscore. I have the
best ball handler in NBA history on the Dallas Mavericks. The best ball handler in NBA history. Probably, Marv, the best shot maker in the NBA right now in Kyrie Irving. That's who I have on there. Now,
we'll
defensively,
we'll see if it translates to a championship.
They have to get better defensively to win the title. I agree.
All right. Well, I know as we wrap up, we could go all day about this, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again. But that's what we do here at After the Buzzers, everybody. Marvin Lee, boy, they can go at it. I promise you they like each other, but definitely difference of opinions. But we appreciate everybody commenting tonight and viewing. Please subscribe. Please check us out every Sunday, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. We have the new merchandise we talked about. We'll be doing some trivia. Lee said he's going to give away some stuff, so we're going to hold Lee to that. But no, we'll definitely give that. But Marv, we appreciate you, man, the Hall of Famer. Anything else you want to say before we go?
I'm just going to say, I don't know if any of you got a chance to watch. There was some really good women's games on today, though, college basketball-wise. I think the NCAA tournament on the women's side is going to be really good. I don't know if anybody can beat South Carolina. It's going to take a lot to beat them, but they got some pretty talented teams. That Nebraska team today showed me some stuff. Like, I was entertained today with the women's game, some of those championship games.
Yeah. Big shout out to Dawn Staley. She just keeps doing it and doing it and doing it. That's a bad young lady. My parting shot will be this, Chris. When we look at when we get to September, and opening day, what are we going to see? And that's what I think everybody needs to look at. I think we're going to see Caleb Williams as the starter in Chicago. I think we're going to see Justin Fields as the starter in Atlanta. Kirk Cousins back in Minnesota. And then the sleeper pick for me will be the Redskins drafting Jaden Daniels as their quarterback of the future. That's what's going to play out in the future. We're going to continue to talk about it. I love the fact that I got my guy on here. Every time we talk to SEC, he just apologizes. It makes me feel bad.
You can't apologize for dominance.
His SEC brethren won't even come on to defend him, Chris. That's the thing that kills me. I want to hear from some SEC people in our upcoming shows to see if they're just as delusional as Marv be sometimes, but that's my boy.
No, we appreciate everybody watching tonight. For me, I'm Chris. We have Marv and Lee. Check us out next Sunday. Also, though, subscribe to us because you'll get alerts as we go through the week because there's a lot of stuff going on, and we'll jump on YouTube and we'll update and talk about things that are going on that day. So please subscribe. We appreciate all of you for watching us. Until then, have a great weekend. Yep. And get ready for the merchandise.
Roll Tide, baby. A down.